everybody, and welcome to a special interview edition of Midweek Motivation. This week's guest is actually Dr. Grant Mullen from Grimsby, Ontario. Over the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be focusing on mental health, and that's going to be both in our Sunday services. We're going to be doing a mini-series called Mastermind, and then also in our Midweek Motivations as well. And so during the Midweek Motivations, what I hope to do is to have interviews with a number of people who are in the mental health field. So statistically, I don't really need to tell you how huge a topic this really is in our community and in our world. I'm not sure if you know the stats, but 1 in 5 people are now dealing with some level of mental illness on whatever end of the spectrum. But in some of those, actually they say that 80% of those are undiagnosed. And so this is a really great series for us to be looking at as a church. And Dr. Grant Mullen has been in this field for years. He is the author of the best-selling book, Emotionally Free, a prescription for healing body, soul, and spirit. He's also an international speaker on the topic of mood disorders, mental health, and well-being. And so he's very well-renowned, very well-versed on these topics, and very well-spoken, well-researched. For many years, Dr. Grant Mullen and his wife Kathy have been leading weekend seminars internationally to teach people how to change the way they think. And so hopefully you can take something out of this interview today. About a year ago, Dr. Mullen began putting, weekly, he began putting 15-minute instructional videos on his website, which is great. So there's at least 52 videos out there right now, and also doing monthly 30-minute Q&As. And so if you want to take advantage of that, you can totally do that at his website, which is in the show notes, which we'll also be talking about during the course of the interview. So today in this video, Dr. Grant Mullen will tell you his amazing story of discovery in the area of mental health, but also as a physician, we're going to pick his brain and get his thoughts about the coronavirus vaccine, and as well as some of the conspiracy theories that are floating around out there currently, and just get his thoughts on a few of those things as well. So it should be a fun, great interview, and so let's just jump right in with Dr. Grant Mullen. Well, it's my privilege to welcome Dr. Grant Mullen, who is a well-known author and speaker and many other things as well, which you can explain in a second, but has traveled for years to explain many things about mental health and psychology and freedom from a Christian perspective, and has been at Highway Church. So he's a friend of Highway Church. And we're glad that you're here on this first interview style Midweek Motivation. So welcome, Dr. Grant Mullen.
Well, it's great to be back in Hagersville with you, Rob.
So it was 2017, I think, since you were last here at Highway Church. So what have you been up to? What has your ministry been? What does it look like in the last year?
Well, until the shutdown, we've been traveling around the world teaching healing. In the year in 2018, we spent a month in New Zealand teaching. We spent a month in Japan teaching. Our book's now translated into English, and well, not translated, it's in French and Spanish and Bulgarian and Japanese. And so we've been sort of all over the place teaching. And then just before, actually about 3 months before the pandemic broke out, we took our entire ministry online, and we started an online course called Free Your Mind. And so we've taken everything that we teach, and we teach it now in weekly short videos that people can subscribe to. And we're actually, much to my surprise, we're actually seeing better results through our online program that people do at home than our weekend seminars, because it gives them time to absorb every lesson, talk to Jesus, do the activations, and just work along at their own speed. So every week we're teaching the videos and posting them. So that's what we've been doing for the pandemic, is creating teaching. We've been teaching every week online.
Amazing. Oh, wow. Well, that sounds so good. And it's good that you got those kind of results. That's really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're just amazed at that God's meeting people at home by themselves when they're doing self-study courses.
Yeah, amazing. It's so good. So for those of people who don't know you, and I'm sure there will be quite a few who don't know you, what's your background, with regard to mental health, and how do you get started? I know it's a fantastic story. I've heard it quite a few times, and I love it. So just give us a little bit of what you're all about. Where'd you start?
Yeah. Well, the short version is I'm a physician. And so when I graduated, I became an anesthetist because I wanted to put people to sleep. And also, I felt it was God's favorite medical specialty because he put Adam to sleep. So I figured then that was God's favorite.
There you go.
And so I became an anesthetist here in Grimsby. But our hospital is small. We only did surgery in the morning. In the afternoon, all the anesthetists became GPs. So I was an anesthetist and a GP. But in general practice, I saw people coming to see me. I couldn't believe how many people came to see me with mental, emotional, relationship, psychiatric problems that I knew nothing about. And most were Christians because I was a Christian doctor. I attracted Christians. And I had no idea that Christians had these problems because the church I grew up in, everybody was walking in victory all the time and no one had any problems. And, it was just a matter of, come to Jesus, everything's perfect, and go win someone else. And
Right.
so I had no idea that Christians were broken and suffering and struggling, and they didn't know where to turn because they were too embarrassed to admit it at church
Right.
because everyone there was fine. And
Right.
so they would come and talk to me. And so I felt so sorry for them because they didn't know who to trust because they were so afraid of secular sources. And so I started to get involved. I thought, well, maybe I can help them a little bit. And so I just started to try. And then, much to my astonishment, people started to get better.
Oh,
Like I had no expectation that I could help anyone. I didn't know anything about that stuff. But slowly, God showed me what people were thinking and how to fix it. And so,
amazing.
so then people started to come from all over Canada and other countries. And so it sort of took over my life. I quit anesthesia, I quit general practice, and I had a mood disorder clinic for 25 years. And then after I closed my clinic, we've just been traveling now around the world, teaching people how to be transformed mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And then now we've moved it online.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. Heard that story a few times. I love it every time. I love it. And incidentally, in my Bible, I don't actually have this Bible anymore because I went to a camp and it got lost. But anyways, in the front of that Bible, I had 3 circles drawn. And those circles were like a Venn diagram where they all converged. And that was because I was at a time where you were speaking and you explained these 3 circles. And I think that's part of your approach to mental health and spirituality and medication and all those things. Can you explain that so that, because I certainly can.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you remembered the 3 circles.
That's right.
See, the foundation of our ministry is Romans 12:2, which is to be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Okay.
And so I heard this growing up in camp meeting and youth conferences, and I thought, yeah, I want to do that. And no one ever told me how, so I just gave up. And so to me, it just became, nice words, but no one can do that. So it's just, you just throw it in the bin. And so as I got involved in mental health, God showed me how do you be transformed and how do you renew your mind? Right? Basically, if you want to be transformed, you have to renew your mind, which means you have to change how you think. Okay. To renew your mind, you have to change how you think. So how do you change how you think? Well, the Bible says there's 3 parts to humans: body, soul, and spirit.
Uh-huh.
And so all of these 3 parts have a huge impact on how you think, feel, and relate to other people. So in the physical realm, in the body part, your brain determines your thought control and your mood. So if you have a problem there, that's things like depression, anxiety, bipolar, the mental health conditions.
Okay.
And in your spirit, the enemy wants to have an enormous influence on how you think, feel, and relate to others. He's always wanting to put thoughts in your mind to distract you and tempt you.
Yeah.
And your soul is your personality. And so that's your mind, will, and emotions. And your personality is shaped by the events of your past. But more important than the events is your conclusions about those events, how you interpreted them, because that shapes your self-image and all that stuff. And so to change how you think, to renew your mind so you can be transformed, you have to assess yourself in all three areas. Do I have a mental health problem? Do I have a spiritual problem? And what's in my baggage that God wants to heal? And
Right.
so the whole purpose of our ministry is to lead people through those three parts. So when I wrote the book Emotionally Free, I just divided the book into those three parts. Our seminars are in those three parts. Our online course, Free Your Mind, is in those three parts. So that's why you got that three circles.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and I remember them being those three things. So would you like, is there a spot where you would kind of go, that's more important than others? Or do you find it's very balanced? Or like, I know, again, the Venn diagram is beautiful because it kind of like, one becomes bigger, whatever. So can you explain that?
Well, I just appreciate that you remembered anything I said.
There you go.
But
I have a long-term
it's
memory.
not it's not that one part is more important, but what's important is the order or the sequence that you approach those parts. Okay.
Okay, got it.
That's what's important.
Yeah.
Because if you approach it in the wrong sequence, you're going to be very discouraged and have very limited results. And that's when the dark side says quit.
Okay.
And the sequence is you have to address the mental health issues first. Because if you need to have thought control to address your baggage and to address spiritual attack on your mind. If you don't have thought control, Satan has an open door to just dump garbage into your head because you won't be able to stop it.
Okay.
And if you have a lot of baggage, if you're trying to deal with the pain and the baggage of your past, but you don't have thought control, you're going to go in circles. Any improvement you make at a counseling visit will only last for 30 minutes and you'll slip right back into your old way of thinking. So,
that's so good.
The sequence is very important. So that's why whenever I'm trying to help someone in a counseling situation or when we're teaching, we always explain you have to do a mental health assessment for yourself first, because 20% of the population, and that number has gone up like crazy during the pandemic, 20% of the population has a mood disorder. That's one person in 5.
Yeah.
And 80% are undiagnosed, untreated. They're what I call the walking wounded. And a mood disorder means I can't shut my mind off. Right. And so that could be anxiety, depression, swinging, drivenness. It's just, if your mind is racing or just continuous thoughts you don't want and can't stop, that could be just because you have a low serotonin level and you need to get some medicines to bring your mind clear again. So it's like you wear glasses for blurred vision, there are medicines for blurred thinking. Okay. And so that's the first step. So once you get thought control, it's so much easier to deal with the other two.
Okay, gotcha. And I think as well, and we're kind of going a little off script here, but I know that when you really noticed first was this whole Christians were coming into your office with mental health issues, but then what you were noticing was this whole spiritual warfare side as well that started to come to play.
Oh, yes. So I became very skilled at getting people on the right medicines. But then I had to admit one of my patients to hospital here in Grimsby for depression. And while I was doing my hospital rounds and I was interviewing her, at one point her eyes glazed over. A voice comes out of her and says, "Leave her alone. She's ours." Well, what do you do with that? That was sort of outside the medical model. And so then I realized that I had just stepped into a whole new world, and I'd been a Christian all my life, and so actually because I'd gone to church all my life, I knew nothing about demons.
Right.
All they told us, all I learned in church about demons was they were overseas and missionaries dealt with it. You don't have to. Well, how useful is that? So I had so many demonic manifestations in my office that I had to learn about spiritual warfare, spiritual authority. And so I discovered the Freedom in Christ books by Neal Anderson. So I read the Bondage Breaker and my eyes opened. I thought, oh, now I get it. And so Neal Anderson and I became friends. He wrote the foreword to my book. I speak at his conferences. So then I had to understand spiritual warfare and how that integrated with mental health, because there is an intertwining of the two. But then my wife and I had a marriage crisis and we had to go to see a counselor, and he taught us about healing of the heart, unloading baggage. And so my journey, God led me, because I had no idea what I was doing, but he led me through these different parts and trained me as I ran into them.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. So good. And now he's using you in this way. Yeah.
Well, you see, because of the transformation that I saw in my patients and in my marriage, I thought, we need to get this word out. I can't be the only person who doesn't know this.
100%.
And so that's why we're teaching it, because most Christians don't realize that there is so much more freedom available to us than we're aware of, because Satan doesn't want you to know that you can be free. He wants you to say, this is good enough, I'm stuck with it, and I'll just put up with it.
Yeah.
And whereas Jesus said, I've come to set you free and give you life on this side of heaven. So that's our passion, is to help Christians come free in those three circles.
Right. Okay. So what's a practical thing? So, I mean, this is great teaching, and obviously we're just skimming the surface. You're just kind of, really condensing everything down, because these are weekend long seminars and stuff, which are now online. But what would be like one thing somebody could do that would be practical, that would be helpful?
Yeah, well, then what to do, because remember, the first step is to assess your own mental health.
Okay.
So the first thing is to determine, am I suffering with depression, anxiety, or mood swings? And I have trouble shutting my mind off. And if they go into my website, drgrantmullen.com, so it's drgrantmullen.com, or just Google Dr. Grant Mullen,
Okay.
and you go in there under resources, we have self-assessment tools where you can actually do a self-assessment for depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. And there's loads of short videos to teach you all about a Christian understanding of mental health. So
Wonderful.
that's where I would start. But then we've got resources for everything. And if they join Free Your Mind, we'll walk them through all three circles. But that's where I tell people to begin, is do your own mental health assessment with the tools on my website.
Okay. Well, and what I'll do is I'll put that in the show notes as well, so that people can do that, and probably refer to your book as well, and also to Neal Anderson's book as well, because that might raise some questions, and people might want to look into that more. I have one last question for you, but before we started, we actually got talking a little bit, and so I know we've actually done well for time. I think we're only about 15-20 minutes in. So, two pastors talking. I don't know how that's a miracle of God is what that is. But what I was asking you, because you have the scientific and medical side, what I was asking you was about the vaccine. And so I have had people in my church ask about the vaccine and say, is this a conspiracy thing? Is this the mark of the beast? Are there chips in there? What about my RNA? And should I be taking this? Should I not? And so you had some really amazing insight on that. So what would you say to somebody who was asking those type of questions?
Yeah, so the messenger RNA vaccines, which is the Pfizer and the Moderna, so those are the first two that were released, they come from this new technology. The other vaccines are more the traditional technology, but the new ones, the reason why they are so effective and they were able to be released so quickly was messenger RNA vaccines have been in development for over 5 years, because they were developed to treat cancer. And so that they've been under investigation for years of how could they train a vaccine to attack invading cancer cells. So when all the people in that industry, when they heard about this new virus, they said, there's a new target. We can easily adjust this existing vaccine to just attract a different target. So instead of a cancer cell, they're going to go after a virus cell. They had the virus signature, like the fingerprint. So they knew its identity. So all they did was they created the messenger RNA. The messenger RNA is not your DNA. All it is, it's a set of instructions that they put into a cell, and it goes into the cell factory to say, okay, make this kind of antibody. Because cells make antibodies all the time. They just said, make this kind, because it will target this new invader. That's all. And so I know people are saying, well, is it going to mess with my DNA? Well, no, it won't. One, because RNA and DNA are different, but in a cell, there's a nucleus and the rest of the cell. The nucleus is where your DNA is. These vaccines never go near that. They stay outside your DNA. They just work on the factory part of your cell. Okay. And all they're doing is giving it new software instructions. Make this kind of antibody. It doesn't touch your own DNA. So that's why it's so safe and it works so amazingly well. But that's why it seems to have come out so fast, is because these things existed before this virus, and they just gave it a new target.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's
in
a lot of people's minds. Like, Bill Gates talked about this 2015. Now all of a sudden here, this is the pandemic, and we all of a sudden have this vaccine. How did this happen? So, but then you also drew a great comparison or connection to vaccines that we already have, that all of us have coursing in our veins right now.
Yeah, and so the question is, should we get the vaccine? Well, I mean, most people get the childhood vaccines. I mean, I know the anti-vaxxers don't do that, but most people get the conventional vaccines because we know they're safe, they're proven, and they have kept us alive. We no longer die from polio. Okay,
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
That's right.
And so, to me, that's a gift from God. Okay, so this vaccine will. Also we get the flu shot. So this is just like another flu shot on a different virus that they had to come out rapidly because this thing's affected the whole planet. And so, to me, vaccines are a gift from God, the same way glasses and my contact lenses are a gift from God. And so, to me, to not take it is to refuse to eat vegetables. It's an unwise health decision.
Right. Okay. And then
I've been overseas, and I have actually seen kids with polio and diphtheria and tetanus, and I'm thinking, why are they dying of that?
Right.
When it's because they don't have the vaccines.
Right.
So we have the vaccines, we don't die from that anymore. So to me, if the vaccine's available, take it.
100%. And then the other piece, and I don't know whether we'll add this in or not, but you were also talking about this idea of this conspiracy theory and the evangelical church and how we're prone to kind of believe these things, especially on the right. And maybe it's because they line up with a couple of values and we buy the whole thing hook, line, and sinker only because it lines up with a stance on maybe immigration or abortion or same sex or something like that. So, you know what I mean? And so, but now we're way down the line on this, agreeing with the anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theories. So what would you say about that?
Well, I think that one of the reasons why evangelicals are more likely to fall for conspiracy theories is because of our end time theology, that everything is going to go bad and that there's going to be this tribulation and all this evil is going to come. And so there's a sense of, well, where is it coming now? I've got a whiff of it. And so that anyone who says, there's something evil afoot, that's a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, that there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. And so that, I think that's why, because of our eschatology, that we're sort of waiting for bad things to happen. I think we're more prone to pick up on these theories and run with them.
Okay. Wow. And I think that's so insightful. And incidentally, we've just covered 6 weeks of end times. Is this the last days? Are these the end times? And, what's the pre-tribulation rapture of the church, and gone through all of those things as well. So I really appreciate that. I knew I had to talk to you for a reason. So, hey, where can people find you? What do you got going on? How can you help people? Where can people link on to your ministry and take advantage of the freedom that you're leading people to encounter?
Well, this week actually is I'm doing a 2-week seminar on worry. So I know your church doesn't have a problem with worry because you're the pastor and it's overwhelming peace, but they may know someone who's worried. Right. And so we have a 4-part video series on worry, and it's available right now, but only until Friday night. It ends Friday night this week. And so you need to go to drgrantmullen.com. And on the top of the homepage, there's where you can register for the free seminar. So you go in there, register, and then it'll take you to the 4 videos, and you can binge watch them because they're going to disappear Friday night. Okay. And then if you want to be part of our Free Your Mind program, which is our online course, which takes you through all 3 circles, all the information will be there. And so that's the easiest way. Just come to the free worry seminar. And then if you want to go deeper, there's links in there. So drgrantmullen.com is where all our resources, that's where I live now until they let me out.
So you get the shot and then we're good to go. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing. It's been short and we've covered a lot of material, a lot of ground. I would really encourage you to check out drgrantmullen.com. I'll put the address and all of Dr. Grant's info in the show notes, and there's some coronavirus stuff coming up right there, so get rid of that. Put that all in the show notes. More stuff coming up. I'll put that all in the show notes, and we hope you can take advantage of some of the things that Dr. Grant is offering. So thank you once again for joining us today, and thanks for all your insight, and we pray God will bless your ministry.
Well, it's great seeing you again, Rob, and I just want to say hello to everyone in Hagersville.
Amen. Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that brief interview. Hope you can take advantage of some of the resources on Dr. Grant Mullen's website. And of course, this series that he has right now up until the end of Friday on worry. So take advantage of that. Also, if you did enjoy this video or enjoyed any of these videos, always click that thumbs up button that's right there below. And also, if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear those questions, hear those comments in the comment section below as well. So go ahead and do that. If you want to explore more on this topic, we're starting a series at our church. We're going to start it this coming Sunday, March the 1st, 3-week mini-series called Mastermind, and it's hope for your mental health. And so again, we know that many people are out there struggling with this, and so we're starting that this Sunday. So be sure to tune in. You can come to our in-person services. Yay, we're starting those again at 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. on site here in person at Highway Church, all COVID protocols in place. Or you can join us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at 3 p.m. on Sundays as well. We'll have those, all of that content available for you. So thanks again for joining us, and we're glad you could be here, and hope that you have a great rest of the week, and God bless you.